guy drove away, and then the cops went to where it had been abandoned. The guy abandoned the car, but then the Garrett's also shut up there. And the police department got out some information pretty fast about what happened. And,
Didn't he have some kind of app?
yeah, he had an app that tracked
Her
the
husband
Tesla.
had the app. Yeah, and that's
So
how
the
they found the car.
Yeah, and the police are very critical and put out a press release saying the family should never have put kids in a car chasing after and confronting a thief because they could have been in danger. Let the police do their job. They said we didn't do anything unusual. We weren't chasing. It was by accident. We kind of saw him. And that the cops were putting out this information to help the mayor get reelected and make the candidate look bad.
So let me ask you something. Could she, the mayor, hopeful, get into trouble because there were her children in the car?
Right, that's the issue. So the issue is, did she do anything wrong by driving around with them there, with the husband was driving? So on both sides, people feel very passionate about that, as we're going to find out. Let's read some of what they wrote. You want to start with Elmer's glue?
This was an incredibly reckless thing to do, regardless of what you call it. If their robot Tesla had a signal that enabled them to track the stolen vehicle's location, then there was no point in trying to track down and cut off thieves, unless they were prepared to measure out violence, vigilante style, against the criminals while their kids were in their car. This is real life, not Hollywood. The only mitigating circumstances here is that we shouldn't hold people responsible for the bad choices made by their spouses.
Right, because so the candidate was the one driving. It was the husband. So, Harry, that's Bob just read what Elmer's glue had to say. Harry, Alex had another point of view. What did Alex have to say, Harry? Harry's doing work. Okay, do you want to read?
Harry's producing here.
Okay, you want me to read Alex? Or are you going to read Alex?
Where are we?
Alex. What did Alex write? Alex is one of the best commenters.
Hold on, I'm got to get to that story.
So he's got a strong point of view, and he's smart. Whether you agree with him or not, he really knows what he's talking about, and he takes it to you.
I think you're gonna have to read it, Paul.
Okay. Alex wrote this. This is what Alex wrote. This is an underhanded and dangerous politicizing by Mayor Kurt Lang that should concern every Connecticut resident. 1, if the Garretts, quote, put their kids' lives in danger, close quote, charge them. The police aren't and shouldn't be in the business of criticizing parents' parenting, especially with press releases. This incident either endangered kids and is a crime, or it isn't. Police shouldn't be playing footsie about kids' safety. Number 2, but they obviously did not endanger anyone. This could happen to anyone. The Garrett's reaction to a circumstance like this is not unusual or out of the ordinary at all. It's what almost anyone would do. Number 3, using the police department for political purposes like this, however, is not normal. In fact, it should scare us all. The police are not a mayor's plaything. And yes, Lauren Garrett has criticized the police for, close quote, quote, the Garretts, close quote, are not running. Lauren Garrett is. She wasn't even driving. She was on the phone calling the police. Dan Garrett was driving. Why must we always blame women politicians for what women politicians' husbands do, and never men for what politicians' wives do? What did Bumbershoot say, Harry? Harry, I got to save this one for Harry. Bumbershoot had another take on it.
It's a good one for you, Harry.
Second page. Bumbershoot's a commenter weighing in, a little different from the other two, but kind of what most people were reacting to.
Okay, hard to tell. Do they have the 70,000 Teslas or only the 35,000 Teslas? Because nothing says voice of the people like only having two $35,000 cars.
That's the thing I heard the most.
And Teslas are expensive cars.
Yeah.
They are.
They are. So right now, the car thief is on the loose, correct?
Correct.
For our viewers.
Yes.
So is there video of the car thief? I saw a body
I read the
cam
police reports. They did not activate. There's in-car video on a Tesla.
Is there
but
really?
They had turned it off.
Wow.
The security video was turned off. So, Bob, what did Lookout have to say?
So should we assume that the person who stole a car, damaged property, and endangered life got away with it completely? Seems like the police are focused more on the Garretts than on their job.
All right. Next page. Grammar Psycho had this to say. Well, listen to the tape, because we had both the 911 tape and the videos from the body cam. Listen to the tape. Dan Garrett did what anybody would have done. He was more rational and less screamy than I would have been. Mayor Lang is the one whose judgment is at fault here. he would have stood back and watched everyone else do the work, which is what he does now in City Hall. These were concerned citizens who knew there was only one way not to lose their car, and the kids were clearly never in danger. What did B. Haven say, Harry?
The police don't want people to confront any criminals because people might be able to do the job better with less injury to others. They could be out of a job. Sometimes, maybe not always, it's probably better to be a part of your community to solve issues rather than call in and outside groups to solve your issues.
Just out of curiosity, Harry, do you file all these comments under different names, or were these real readers?
Now, look, I agree.
I knew you agreed. I knew you'd agree.
I agree.
You think people should take law into their own hand and confront criminals with kids in the car?
No, and I think that I agree with Lauren also that it's being overdone and they're just trying to pick on her because she's a candidate. But sometimes you have to confront people.
Do you think with your kids in the car you should go up to a thief?
I think he should have let his family exit the car while he followed.
And by the way, I see both sides on this one. I definitely agree with Lauren that they have taken this matter larger than they do a lot of other matters. But on the other hand, Dan Garrett's version did not match what he said on the body cam video.
Oh no,
he said it was just some minor thing.
But you know what, Lauren explains that.
He said he has testosterone.
Right, bravado and testosterone, and that's true. You know, you have if you ask my wife and I to actually describe the same story, you're gonna get different stories.
Definitely, same.
I mean, but it's gonna be the same. It's gonna be the same but different.
Yeah. Well, let's read a few more comments, Bob. What did what did Thomas Alleghi have to say?
Why did the garage jeopardize the safety of their children by pursuing their stolen Tesla when they could have stayed at the restaurant and given the police the location of their stolen car from the Tesla app? It just does not make any sense. Do we want this mayoral candidate, Lauren Garrett, with such poor judgment running the town of Hamden? I say no.
But Greg DaCosta, 2 down, Harry, I think he had something to say. He was feeling pain.
Where is it?
Greg DaCosta, 2 ones later.
He sure was feeling some pain.
Okay. It always sucks when one of my Teslas gets stolen.
And then DJ K's mom says, Teslas are pretty expensive. That family can afford 2? I don't think she'd have the, quote, little guy in mind when making decisions for the public if elected. On another note, why didn't she just call 911? Why call her okay, she called the police person first. So Harry's take is he's on Lauren's side. They did the right thing, and the police are blowing it up to hurt an opponent.
I'd like to read Union Man's comment here, since I'm a Union Man.
You are a Union Man, Bob.
Chief Cappiello, the Hamden police chief, and the department used to be used as a political tool by Mayor Lang by allowing Captain Smith to issue a press release that is obviously intended to mislead the public and interfere with an election. He has undermined public trust with the department. He needs to resign.
I do know the police felt unfairly attacked by the Garretts because they said they claimed the incident went down one way when our officers are just doing their jobs. And when you look at the body camera video and 911 that bears it out, and then the Garretts feel like, why were you bothering putting a public statement out anyway? And it's because reporters were calling them because the story was going all around town.
Now I'm curious. Why did they have the body cams on?
You're supposed to. Anytime you approach your car in these situations.
Wait a minute.
Situations.
The criminal got away.
The criminal was gone before they got there.
Okay, the body cam did not need to be turned on. And once you know the criminal is gone, the body cam should have been
I agree with you. I disagree with you so thoroughly, Harry, because part of the reason for body cams is about how police interact with the public.
That's very true.
That is why they put them.
That's
in the
not
first
the
place.
reason why this body cam was on.
They didn't know who they were stopping. They didn't know.
No, but after you realize the criminal is gone, you turn off the body cam.
You don't, because otherwise the public says so many of the complaints about the police, Harry, are that someone says the police dealt with me wrong.
This was a gotcha situation, and another thing, the people who are jealous.
But you're just saying, on the facts. On the facts. I've interviewed the chief of Hamden who put in the body cameras. I interviewed the chief of New Haven who put in the body cameras. First, front, and center. They said they have to be on when they deal with the public unless it's domestic violence or something private like that, because the public wants evidence if they say there's a complaint that the police dealt with them wrong. So you're wrong about that, Harry.
Evidence of what?
How
They
you
were
dealt
the-
with them? Did you beat
They
us
were
up?
there
in your road?
they were there for the crime of the car, not to videotape Lauren and her husband
They're
going
supposed
through
to
a-
video everything of how they
No.
deal with Lauren and her husband.
Come
Because
on.
Lauren and her
And then
husband
you
say
have the
Dell is
people who
wrong.
are jealous because they have 2 Teslas. Come on, stop being ridiculous. Just because some people are more successful than you shouldn't be like this. Be better than that.
Okay, Bob, what do you think?
But I have my 2 cents on this, Paul.
What's your 2 cents?
And
Bob?
my 2 cents is that it is the police's job to chase a stolen car thief. It is not the garage job. And yes, they did jeopardize their kids, but they're saying the kids weren't in jeopardy at all. Because didn't the husband jump out at one point? I thought he did.
At the end, when they went to the car that was abandoned, he got out.
Okay,
but
when
no,
it was abandoned.
he
Okay.
confronted the guy in traffic.
Well, confronted when there's enough space for the car to get away. Come on, it's not really a confrontation. You're not blocking anybody in.
They did. He said, "quote I blocked them in."
Oh, but he didn't because
mean, that's the
it's
quote.
wide enough. You can't block somebody in when there's 2 lanes, right? So
They were going
unless
in
you
opposite directions.
right, unless you spread your car and you block both lanes.
That's what they said they did.
He didn't do that because he
How do you
got
know?
hit. The side of the car got hit. So if you're gonna do an investigation, the side of the car gets hit. If your car is sideways, he's gonna run into the building or come on.
I'm trying to think where
So
Harry's
they
coming on
met.
this.
They met at a. Okay, let me go back in the story here, Paul, to update our viewers and listeners that they both took separate Teslas to a restaurant, a sushi restaurant on Dixville Avenue. Somehow, the husband left the keys in his car?
No,
Well,
left the keys. I
they
think he left it
stole
unlocked,
Lauren's car. No, it's the husband's car. 'Cause,
Yeah,
see,
they
hit
did steal
Lauren's
the
car.
husband's car.
But then
okay.
the husband got behind the wheel of Lauren's car.
And the husband got behind, and somehow this app he has, they found out where the car was. I heard it was somewhere on Warren Street in
At
Hampton.
the end, first it was Dixwell.
It was Dixville,
And they
right?
and he goes, "There you are, hey!" And the guy says he sees him, he pulls out, and then according to Dan Garrett blocked his path, and then the guy hit the side of his car because that's what happens, Harry, when you're in
Well,
opposite directions.
so
and
what
When
was-
you're in
block someone's
opposite
path.
directions,
They were.
They walk. So you don't block a path because it's a 2-way, right? Unless you cross your car this way, and how is he going to go to the side of you? He's going to hit directly on you if he's sitting in your car. If you're taking up the street sideways,
No, if you're northbound and they're southbound,
if
then you turn 90 degrees to block him, and he hits your side.
passing you,
No,
he
hits your
nicked
side and
them
went
as
around.
he passed them, Paul. He nicked them as he passes them. That means your car isn't blocking the path. It's actually they're facing each other, so you get hit.
And
as
Blake,
it
Blake
passes
says,
you.
"Get the story straight, please. Thanks. Good point, Blake. If you go to the New Haven Independent, you can actually read about the report."
I did. I read it.
I'm not saying to Harry. I said to Blake. Blake has a very good point. If you go to our story, we do have from the report. We have the actual body cam video of the interview. We have the 911 call. But I think overall, we're saying that Lauren Garrett didn't really do anything wrong.
She did.
It was legitimate to write about mayor candidate. How should we do the police? Very good debate about whether you should, like as Bob says, let the police do their job. As Harry says,
they
go chase
definitely
them and
should.
confront them. Definitely this was being used to the advantage of a mayoral candidate against Lauren Garrett. I'm not so sure the police. I kind of think the police went there in good faith. I think Harry is 1,000% wrong about when they put
I
on
think
body
I think
cams
they
and
went there
why.
in good faith, but when they realized the situation,
But the they would have actually gotten disciplined if they turned their body camera off.
no, they would.
So
of course they would. That's what happened in the officer involved shooting. The guy didn't have his when he stopped
Paul,
the car. He didn't
the
have
criminal
his
is
camera on.
gone. You're not going to get in trouble for
It's
that.
not about when the criminal's there.
Of
So
course.
does this hurt her chances at being
Hard to
elected
tell.
mayor?
That's a
And
good question.
and it is very hard to tell. Will people look at it as a bad judgment call on her part? You know,
Or well, like her side is adamantly angry at us, at the police. They say that this is being taken out of proportion, which I see their argument. They're saying a double standard with women. They're saying the police were politicized. So for her supporters, this will double their desire to have her win. I'm not sure how the person who is not involved in Hamden politics sees this. I have no way of knowing that. We're always guessing as reporters.
Well, if I was in Hamden, if I lived in Hamden, I would vote for her because of this. Because I see, look, you make somebody a victim, usually that works in their favor. Okay? And actually it would work in her favor if it was me. But whatever,
I'll tell you
politics.
what, we're doing commenting on the commenters here at WNHHFM's Dateline New Haven at 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org.
Abuse of power is always ugly, Paul.
Two of the says the Donald Trump fan. Two of the brightest bulbs
That's right.
in radio. Bob McCormick and Harry Dross are here with me. I'm Paul Bass.
He has the Ninth Circuit there to reel him in, right?
I'm the guy in the middle here.
We're reading comments from our commenters and some of the hot stories, and then we're commenting on the commenters. Let's turn our attention to a story that has provoked a lot of discussion. Gary Highsmith is an African-American educator, prominent in town. You'll see why I mentioned his race in a second. He is supporting Justin Elicker for mayor. Justin Elicker is white. Tony Harp is black, who's the mayor Justin Elicker is running against in the September 10th primary. Gary Highsmith wrote a strong article in the New Haven Independent, an op-ed, saying that too often he feels black people feel they're supposed to vote for a candidate because the candidate's race, if the candidate is black, rather than the merits. That provoked a firestorm on both sides about that article. He urged people to vote for Elicker because he says Elicker's a better candidate. The article didn't really run down why Elicker's better. It ran down why Highsmith isn't happy with Tony Harp. And
I like the article.
Yeah, the article has provoked a lot of discussion. Let's read some of what they have to say. Why don't you start, Bob, with Thomas Alfred Payne, who's a regular commenter who is also African-American and supports Justin Elicker.
Mr. Highsmith has precisely expressed my sentiments about this mayoral race. Blacks have been under some pressure to support the re-election of Mayor Tony Harp because she is black, and some consider it a betrayal not to support the black candidate. This race is not about race, but some black people have worked overtime to make it so. One person in the New Haven Independent called the mayoral race a race war. One minister called on blacks to just stand behind black leaders. Some have referred to black supporters of Justin Elicker as Uncle Toms. When Martin Luther King spoke about dreaming of a day when American people would be judged by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin, that dream was for every race, not just white people. Those people who have conspired to make this mayoral race racial should be ashamed. And those in the Harp campaign who have twice tried to brand Justin Elicker as a racist in the eyes of the black community by trying to link Elicker to Donald Trump should be ashamed. Those who have attacked Elicker and his supporters as elites, Elicker elites, and Elicker lights should be ashamed. This is a political race, not a race war. People need to keep focused on the issues, the records, and what the candidates propose to offer. Race should not matter. Results matter. Policies matter. Service to the public matter. Honesty and truth also matter. A lot of people in this city are unhappy with the current administration. Many are in minority communities. These people will not be pressured, bullied, or intimidated to vote for a candidate just because she is black, no matter what the Yale Union's black preachers, Hispanic leaders, and third parties say.
Harry, what did Westville Man say? He's white.
Does it list his whiteness here?
No, I just know who the people are.
Wow, major coup for Elicker. Gary's reputation is impeccable, and his commitment to the black community is unquestionable. Could be a real game changer, though. I still think this election will fall mostly along racial lines.
Living in New Haven, who's an African-American woman, had this to say. Why does this guy have an audience? He works in Hamden. He's bitter he didn't get a job as New Haven superintendent. His friend's wife got a high position at the Board of Education. His best friend works at the Board of Education Central Office. This guy is crying like a scorned woman. The elephant in the room is that he did not get a job, so he is bitter. Things happen. Why is this op-ed even necessary? So he doesn't do race politics? The printing of this with his picture is racially motivating and is doing exactly what he is claiming he doesn't do. Cry, baby. The Reverend Samuel T. Ross Lee, who's also African-American, and I'm giving people's race just so you know where they're coming from. Blake said it was a great article. Mr. Highsmith is correct. What exactly is Harp done for New Haven? It shouldn't be about her blackness. What does Samuel T. Ross Lee say, Bob?
If Mr. Highsmith wishes to endorse and vote for Justin Elicker in the upcoming mayoral race, that is undoubtedly his right to do so. As a noted educator who was among the finalists for superintendent here in New Haven, it might also be his responsibility to make public his chosen candidate. What Mr. Highsmith is not responsible for doing is lecturing the rest of the African American community on or voting habits based on the race of the candidate. In this highly charged and condescending endorsement article, Highsmith has taken a broad swipe at the intellectual acuity of most of the African American voting public in the country, but more particularly in New Haven. At all of this, I take offense. There have been many black politicians vying for the African American voting, for whom we have been smart enough not to vote. The renowned surgeon but politically inept Dr. Ben Carson comes to mind in the immediate. Here in New Haven, changing party affiliations to vote in primaries for a candidate of one's choice is quite simple. I did it in 2007 to vote for Obama in the Democratic primary. The political possibility for African Americans to change over to vote for Carson was high, while its probability was extremely low, and the records show was not done by countable amount. Closer to home, African American voters rejected the appeal of incumbent Mayor John C. Daniels, an African American, for his challenger John DeStefano, who is not. Mr. Highsmith's endorsement of Mr. Elliker should have focused more on his reasons for supporting Elliker and not on bashing the incumbent, and more importantly, the entire African American community. If Highsmith's point in this piece is to persuade African Americans to support his choice, he did a poor job of making the case. Instead, he insulted the intelligence of those whom he is attempting to persuade. Not good.
As usual, a very interesting article from the Reverend Sarah Mosley. Just for a fact check, John DeStefano did not challenge Mayor John Daniels as an incumbent. In 1993, John Daniels decided not to run for another term. But to Reverend Rusley's part, there were politically active African Americans who had switched to support DeStefano before Daniels announced his resignation. The two ran in '89 when it was an open seat, and Daniels got the way overwhelming majority of the black vote in that race.
But didn't DeStefano and Daniels face one another?
In 1989, when there was an open seat, when Ben DeLito resigned, Daniels was not the incumbent, and Daniels did get, by all accounts, almost every black vote. But in '93, there were prominent black people, including Tony Harp's husband, Wendell, and who were abandoning Daniels. Daniels decided not to run.
Well, people like Highsmith, right?
Highsmith was mad at Daniels.
Who decided to vote out of integrity and leave Daniels, right? So that's the point, and that's what Highsmith's op-ed is all about, right?
Blake says Mr. Highsmith was raised in New Haven. His roots are there.
So Daniels was a two-term mayor, correct? He was a two-term, and that was it.
That was it.
And then DeStefano ended up
20 years.
And is Samuel Rosley saying he's Republican, that he crossed over to vote?
I think he's independent.
Okay, because he made it sound like he crossed over to vote for Obama.
He went from unaffiliated to Democrat so he could vote for Obama.
So he could vote for Obama. And why did he do that?
Because he supported Obama on the merits.
Yeah, because he supported Obama, not because he was African American, right?
So, Harry, what did Vocal Parent have to say as we read more comments?
Vocal Parent, clearly this move. I just heard Samuel Rosley in my head anyway, but clearly this move is the politics to which he speaks. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, another person has been brought.
Bought, he meant.
Bought.
Elmer's Glue, one of my favorite handles, said, the irony in all this is that Highsmith would do far more to advance the educational interests of African American students and parents than Dr. Burks, who, despite her support from some local leaders, is beholden to the jargon-laden, management-heavy, neoliberal, and mayonnaise-white approach to education that she learned at Columbia University. Bob, what did Chris C.N.H. teach?
Agree with the comments that this is not about race. However, it is a blatant grab for consideration for the superintendent job. We don't need another person who was forced out of a high school principal job after several years. That hasn't worked out so well now. Has it? How about someone with the superintendent experience next? It isn't about race. It is a job application.
Okay, the interesting thing about that commenter is white. That comment supports Justin Elliker, that person. However, that person does not support the article Gary Highsmith wrote, even though he agrees with the point, because he feels that, and this is an issue underlying this campaign, Justin Elliker was under pressure to show that he doesn't just have white people supporting him this time. Almost every African American Latino person he's put out front, who he's marched in parades with, put in his brochures, featured his opening, are all people who have a gripe with Tony Harp. So Gary Smith was not picked by Tony Harp to be the superintendent. Lou Casanova, the ex-assistant police chief, sued Tony Harp when he didn't get to be the police chief and left the force. And now he's marching the parade with Justin Elliker.
So do you think that's hard feelings?
Oh, it's all hard feelings.
Yes.
So all the people working the hardest on this campaign in the most pictures are Ed Joyner on the Board of Ed, who was the head of Mayor Harp's transition team until she didn't make him her top advisor. So he became her biggest opponent, as did Nicole Jefferson, whom she fired in a controversial way, and just as a city official. And she and her daughter and her husband and the union person who represented Shirley Poindexter had her own fights with Harp. Bitter fights. They're also the prominent people for Elliker. So I think what this commenter is getting at, this commenter supports Elliker, but all these people who are coming to his side of color are all people coming because they didn't get something from Tony Harp they wanted, or they're angry at her. So if Elliker wins, he's going to have to decide whether to undo a lot of what, and that's going to become his challenge, what he's going to do with these people who Harp concluded.
Some of the commenters we've read about, it seems like they think Gary came out and said this because he didn't get chosen for the superintendent's job in New Haven. And I had told Darnell and a few others that I thought he should have. He's local grown. Carol Burks was not from New Haven. Isn't she from Hartford, Paul?
I think Bridgeport.
She I thought it was Hartford. Yes, I think she worked in Hartford at one point.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I thought Gary should have gotten chosen, and then he withdrew his name at one point, didn't he?
As the only minority in the room, let me just say this, right? In 2008, for the Obama election, I had family, friends tell me it was my duty to vote for Barack Obama because he was black. It was my duty, because I have a lot of blacks in my family, and we're crossed, we're mixed and everything. Anyway, it was my absolute duty. And I even had a coworker buy me Dreams of My Father by Barack Obama.
That's a good book, although I'm bummed he couldn't find some of the characters.
Well, after I read the book, it solidified my opinion on Obama, and I didn't vote for him, right? So this is the thing. This is real. This is real. This movement.
And Jewish people do it too. My father in 2000, my father's of blessed memory, he's dead. He used to tell me, that Joe Lieberman, he's such a scoundrel the way he sold out to rich people in the hard right. And my father was starting to like Ralph Nader. And then Joe Lieberman got picked to be vice presidential nominee. He would have been the first Jew. My father, who grew up in the 20s and 30s when Jewish people were really discriminated against and beat up, he called me up all excited. He said, "He picked Lieberman. This is great." I said, "Dad, last week you told me the guy was despicable and you didn't want him in politics." He said, right. And he honestly said to me, my father was very intelligent, his mental faculties were there. He said, "I don't remember saying that." Well, I mean, this group pride,
well, that's
folks.
the thing. And in 2012, I knew people who were absolutely upset with Obama's job performance, but told me I was still supposed to vote for him. They were still going to vote for him because they wouldn't vote against
Ricky Allen
the first black president.
Ricky Allen John says, "Hello, Bob. Very good content. Thanks for listening and posting." So, Harry, Babs Earls Ivy, you'll be on the radio tomorrow.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to read Babs.
I will read it.
For you. No, I left it for Harry to read.
No.
Come on, Harry. Let's see how you can channel Babs. What
there
did
you
Babs
go.
Say?
Bob can read it.
I'll read it, Paul, because I knew we would read it, and I was going to ask if I could read it.
So Harry could read it.
I don't want to read Babs.
Okay, why don't you read Babs?
Okay. What? Bro, what? So White is better based upon what? Elliker is better based upon what? Give him a chance based on what? Because he wanted to run, and so black folks are to do what exactly? Listen, Mayor Harp is an accomplished, well-read, experienced legislator. I love the fact that she is a black woman. Black women are at the heart of every movement in this country and abroad. Historically, we have carried this country on our backs, often without support of white women and black men. This op-ed is no surprise to me, and it offers nothing new to the conversation. I mean, here we are 400 years out from the beginning of slavery in America, and this is the discussion? I'm not sure what Mr. Highsmith is doing with so-called op-ed, but I expect it from brothers like I suspect someone else in his circle will come with some other similar perspective. Opinions are buttholes. Everyone has one.
Okay, so Harry, you can read what a different black woman wrote. A black woman who goes by the handle Challenge. What did she write in response, Harry?
Highsmith has every right to his opinion. Instead of trying to discredit him, use that energy to make the incumbent look better than she has looked over the course of her leadership in the city. Explain why the Q House has yet to be built, why the youth don't have the escape center that was supposed to meet the needs of homeless youth, why the construction jobs promised residents during her campaign ended up being more pipe dreams, just like, shovel ready jobs, or why Yale has yet to fulfill its promise of employment to city residents, or more recently, why she failed to join the rest of the candidates at the youth-led debate last week, or why so many of her choices in chiefs and school superintendents have been a mess, and why there has been so much scandal in her administration that she knew nothing about, or why the FBI is currently investigating the office, why so many lawsuits have been made against the city costing taxpayers millions. We could go on and on. This race should not be about black or white. It should not be about man versus woman or who is most popular. It should be about who is best to run the city. Highsmith doesn't sound like a scorned woman. He sounds more like one whose head is not up his butt. Wow. Harp has had her chance and failed several times. Not to say Ellica will be any better. They both were shaped by the same institution that has and continues to rob the city of tax revenue. Maybe we should be looking at who has the best plan for the city and not the one we owe homage because of favors promised. There are 4 candidates. Looking at just 2 of them may be one of our biggest mistakes. In always doing the same thing, we will likely always get the same result.
Living in New Haven,
that's actually a good point. Real good point.
Living in New Haven commenter is another African-American woman who's active in town, and here's what she writes. However, it is a blatant grab for consideration for the superintendent's job. We don't need another person who was forced out of high school principal job after several years. That hasn't worked that well, so has it? That's right. I didn't know this. I'll just start asking around. Word on the street, he's jockeying for the job. This op-ed is simply a way to try and show Elliker that he will trash an accomplished black woman. Shame on him. Black folks have always had to contend with their own kind, selling them up the river. Other ethnicities will fight tooth and nail behind closed doors and then come out to the public like all is well. These Sambo sellout shucking and jiving disgraces should never be invited back to the cooking. Not even a plate wrapped in foil should be made for them. And they will know exactly what I mean when they read this, because when all said and done, they are black people living in New Haven who is black. Wow. Wow, but this really provokes passionate views, which we're reading here on Dateline.
I have one last thought on this. Gary supported Caricus.
Well, what happened is that Gary supported Kermit Carolina for mayor in 2013, and they were very upset with Tony Harm. Mm-hmm. But then Kermit Carolina was hired by Tony Harm in the Board of Ed, so he no longer could take a public stand like that. And so in 2013, in the general election after primary, he did endorse Elliker back then too, and he has endorsed her.
He
opponents.
did endorse Caricus back then too, against Stefano.
He hated the Stefano, yeah. He's been for the underdog.
I just want to say that the op-ed is, for me, is exceptional and it's brave, and I applaud him because I've taken this stand for years, and I've had family disown me. Friends.
Did they really disown you?
Huh?
They really disowned you?
Yeah, they really did.
They went to court. They said Harry Jost is not my relative anymore.
They don't even talk to me. They no longer come for Thanksgiving.
That's hard.
Okay, I've taken this stance of integrity.
You didn't steal money from them.
Integrity over race. Okay, over race baiting, because that's what it is. And I applaud him for taking the stand. It's a hard stance to take.
My dad told me, Paul, that politics and religion are 2 things you don't want to
at your Thanksgiving table.
ever get into at the Thanksgiving
That's
table.
funny. I used to talk to your dad a lot. We never talked about religion. He told me he loved John Lindsay, the mayor of New York.
Yes. Well, he was from Brooklyn.
Yes, he was.
Yep.
All right, let's do one more. We had a story that seemed like, everybody would say hooray, applaud. We have a bunch of vacant storefronts downtown. And at the Educational Center for the Arts, a teacher got some of her students, and they put murals up to make it look nice. And our commenters always have interesting stuff to say you wouldn't guess. Let's see what they had to say about this project, about putting murals up by artists on vacant storefronts. You want to start, Bob, with Gretchen Pritchard?
This is lovely. However, the issue of vacant storefronts needs a long-term solution because the changes in retail are real and appear to be permanent. Building in-ground level retail space in new buildings would seem to be an idea whose time is passing or has already passed. There are storefronts on Audubon Street that I think have literally never had a tenant since they were built a generation ago.
What did Hugh Navin, one of the better names, I think, of commenters, what did Hugh Navin write, Harry?
Great use of empty storefronts, but I agree. The Jane Jacobs mythology has met the Jeff Bezos reality. We need a plan B for mixed-use development.
Kevin McCarthy commented he usually knows more about law and development than most people since he was an aide at the state legislature for 2 decades or more and learned all this stuff. Kevin wrote, Gretchen, there is the issue of ground floor retail generally. And then there is Audubon Street. I agree with you and Hugh Navin that there have been a structural change in the retail market that makes filling ground floor retail very difficult. But I've lived 3 blocks from Audubon Street for 27 years. During this period, which started before e-commerce began, most of the retail spaces have been empty most of the time. Bruce Alexander did some very good things for the city while he was at Yale. But his leasing philosophy was totally inappropriate for this street. What did Bill Saunders write, Bob?
This is an idea, but by no means new. This is an old age idea to cover for a bad retail market.
What did Boo Shu have to say, Harry?
Great to see our artists being supported and, like any business for hire, getting some payment for their time, work, and effort. It is alarming to read how many street-level storefronts are vacant. If the owners lowered their rents, perhaps that might not be the case. There are 2 minded sets here. Get the available rent, and I just lost my. Get the available rents. Perhaps that might be. I lost myself. Sightseeing.
Just
Okay.
skip ahead. The issue at hand, Boo Shu writes, are the prices of rents. Landowners should deflate their expectations. I know of a great business driven out of a critical downtown location, Chapel Street, due to the rent being prohibitive. New Haven is not New York. This is the issue at hand. What is the city doing? Why not invite innovative startups in science, health, design, architecture, education into these spaces at a free or low and affordable 3-year lease? You give them an opportunity to grow, make it a national call. I bet you get amazing innovative startups applying. Bring new business at all cities, at all levels. What does Stylo write, Bob?
Well, not every residential development needs ground level retail. There's been overdone a bit in the core of downtown. It's fine. MetroStar was smart and only had 1 space in their large development. And it was a leasing office / advertisement before coming in Milkcraft. But the stuff coming to 9th Square and Worcester Square? No need for more retail space. Projects like the Hilton Garden Inn are great because not only does it not dilute retail in the city, it provides a net gain of customers that are in a mindset to spend money.
So that's what I think we're getting at, folks. So they're saying, why are all these storefronts empty? Well, they're empty a lot in Manhattan, too, where there are millions of people. People are buying stuff online. But still, there are other stores that nowadays are doing better again. So Barnes & Noble's going out of business a lot of places. But
not up at Yale, it's
right,
not.
Yale. But the independent bookstores are doing better. Restaurants sometimes are doing well, but other kinds of conventional stores aren't because people buy online. So in New Haven, we always had this idea that we screwed it up in the 60s. We knocked down all these buildings that had stores on the first floor, apartments above them. So every time something gets built in New Haven, 9th Square, Winchester Avenue stuff, anywhere in town, Worcester Square, we always say you have to have stores on the first floor and apartments above them. And it became this formula. But a lot of times the storefronts stay empty. So the question is, should we rethink the idea? What do you guys think?
Well, I want to just say I saw your show yesterday
Brian McGrath and
with
Joel
Brian
Schiavone.
McGrath and Joel Schiavone. That was a great show. It was great to see Joel Schiavone.
Yeah.
I remember who pulled a stunt years ago when he was the owner of the Nighthawks.
Right,
And he
he-
sat on top of the Coliseum.
He said, "I'm going to
remember.
sleep here until people buy
Yeah,
more tickets."
More tickets. I think he had to sell like 1,000 season tickets. But anyhow, make a long story short, it's great. But then again, it's not great because there's no retail in that space there.
Yeah, I think
So-
it's not. I think it's an old way of thinking that
Yeah.
overcame another old way of thinking. Schiavone did it right in the '80s. He said they destroyed it when they got rid of these stores on the first floor that are local stores, and then upstairs the other apartment. He did it where he brought people back downtown, living in old buildings upstairs, and then going to the stores, but they were local stores. Now the economy has changed where people go online, and you don't necessarily need. You might need more human beings to patronize some of those other stores, or more. But his argument is that Yale gets all these chains in. So, like, nobody's going to go to these chains like olive oil stores, Lululemon. They're trying to chase this expensive shopper, and they don't mind if they don't make money because it's Yale. They just want to make sure it's for, like, shoreline people with dyed blonde hair.
Yeah,
coming.
more people are shopping online today. That's a
Yeah.
known fact.
So
So
Brian McGrath said he's glad Yale fills those spaces because even if they're losing money on it, they do offer you something to buy. I don't know.
I mean,
Cat
it's
Lego, Kettlegate Caddy says, Catley says the community's favorite radio station. Thank you. Very sweet thing to say.
it's changing. I mean, these storefronts are going to be filled actually by Amazon,
Right, they have stores now.
right? Because they have stores
true.
now.
But
So
we have a new new bookstore on York Street, and the book trader celebrated 20 years. So we lost our community bookstores. Like there was what was the great one on Chapel Street, not Bookhaven, I forget what it was called. And then there was the one on York Street.
there
that
was
went
one
out.
with
That's
magazines, and actually my dad's book was right there on the was right there and a display on the window of that. And I want to say it was number 3 bookstore or something like that. It sounded
Well,
like
yeah,
it had a number. It was
you're
on
always going to
Chapel.
have the old,
Had a lot of magazines.
the people
in it.
who want to have actually have books in their hands, right?
Mhm.
I prefer digital books myself, so I'm not going to
A
go
lot of
into a
people do
bookstore.
today. A lot
So-
of
I
people.
love real books, and I have to admit, I buy some online.
Yeah.
I like them.
Is that bookstore up the street still there at Chapel in New York, Paul? Was that a bookstore?
That's the one. It's still there. The book trader
is
doing
still.
great after 20 years.
Wow, that's awesome. But Paul, let's just say, do you think the mom and pop stores are the ones that are really surviving?
It
And-
depends what they're doing in the store. So
You know,
it's tough
should-
to make retail
Should
work.
downtown New Haven be more mom and pop stores like we had years ago, like Unique Boutique?
I think the answer
and-
is I think the answer is yes in both cases. I think there are enough storefronts to go around that we should, like, Schiavone says the landlord should take a haircut for a while to nourish a local business and not go for these chains that are the wrong mix for here. I think you could do both. I think that Yale can do what it wants to make its little blow-dried little shoreline type district for their students, and I think there are enough other storefronts in the 9 Square in downtown that we can get people like Neville Wisdom, who's doing great, like Art Space doing great, to just Be Natural, those kind of places, let them thrive too.
I just wanted to say one last thing. I saw Gary Winfield this morning.
State senator.
Yes, he was at Lincoln Bassett School giving high
Meeting the
fives
kids,
with
yeah.
other guys, and the superintendent of schools was there. I hope everybody's first day of school went okay, because I know there was that
Yeah,
mess with the bus stop
What is
situation.
that called? They're doing. It's called Brothers for
It's
something.
Because You Matter.
Brothers because you matter, and they're high-fiving kids as they walk into school. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Schools and teachers. Yep.
Yeah.
High fives to Bob McCormick and Harry Dross. Thanks. I love when you guys, and Harry did have other things to do. Wasn't feeling 100%. Thank you, Harry,
Harry,
for both running
always
it.
great to have
And,
you
and,
on
and
board.
he's always simultaneously. He brings.
I'm about ready to call him a Ronald Reagan guy.
Yeah, he
but,
brings
a
Donald
Donald
Trump, but he
Trump
brings
guy.
in the great perspective, and he's also running things at the same time and getting us all
Yes.
over the blogosphere and the net and everywhere. So thank you, Harry. Thank you, Bob McCormick.
Yes.
Always great having
Always
you. in
great
here
to
through the
see you
comments.
every month, Paul.
And,
We'll continue to read the
Next time
stories
I'll
and
go
the
to primary.
commenters.
That's right, and thanks to the people who commented to us on the show.
I would
during the
love
show.
to have the three of us do something on primary night or day.
That'd be
That
fun.
would be interesting and very fun, too.
Maybe we should do that. And then we're going to thank Yale New Haven Hospital for providing support for today's program. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day and all night long here at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.